Hey guys, Sly here, and before we get into this video, I just want to let you guys know that this is actually a re-upload of a part of a series that I do on my Twitch channel called the Sly Army Tierlists, where we pretty much rank a bunch of just random topics that I'm personally interested in. And so, because of that, these opinions are not set in stone for how I feel about in the current day. And so if you guys want a more updated version of that, feel free to either check out the DeviantArt link down below or tune in on my Twitch that will also be in the description, or check out my Discord where I occasionally post some more updated versions of how I feel about certain topics. And so do keep that in mind. And also make sure to check out the description of the video itself for the timestamps for the particular topic that is presented here. But in any event, I hope you guys do at least enjoy. I recommend you guys listen to this as either like a podcast form or as just something to play in the background. But in any event, hope you guys at least enjoy. Hello. Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of the Sly Army Tier Lists. So, as you can see, we have another new guest for our tier list series, and he's been on several streams before, kind of building up to this, and it's our good old legendary artist and comic creator, Goldie. What's up?
Hello, hi, welcome everyone. It's me. I know you can stop like freaking out. I know it's me. I'm the champ.
Hold on, where's my audience? There we go.
Yeah.
You're popular now. You're popular now.
I am valid.
You've been validated enough to actually join in one of these. So, but yeah, no. So I will say this. I feel like I've been lying to everyone. Yes, I know that is a major shock for everyone. Yeah, I know. But it's mostly just because, well, there's been a lot of delays involving the Disney Channel tier list. We were originally going to do that last month, but because of complications in the past few months with Sai Mori and with Zombie Slayer, we're going to be filling that up with a bit of a smaller tier list here, kind of similar to what I did with Call of Duty and with Battlefield, Halo, and with Total War. We decided that we're going to take some time to actually do a tier list on another specific series. And that series is, of course, the one that has our 47th agent as our lead role, the Hitman series. So
Our favorite little bald-headed assassin.
Yeah. So now you guys are probably like wondering, hey, Sly, why are you doing Hitman? You barely streamed the series. Yes, I will admit that, but this is actually, honestly, not only one of my favorite series, at least personally, but it's also actually one of Goldie's more recent interests as like a franchise. So
Wonders.
And because, obviously some of the other games that I have played before in the past, like Sly Cooper, Splinter Cell, and I've talked about Metal Gear quite a bit in the past, and hell, I've even played the first two of the new World of Assassination trilogy. It's a franchise that I've grown to really, really love. That being said, though, there are some stinkers in here, admittedly, and we'll get to those stinkers quite a bit, but it's a franchise that, it's just cool, and it's even different from a lot of other stealth franchises, because most stealth franchises is mostly just you trying to sneak around guys from point A to point B just so that you can get to point C to the next level. Whereas with Hitman, there's a little bit more of a... It is obviously a stealth series, but there's more like,
planning.
Yeah, it's
sort
more of
a observation, sort of looking, like following your target. Obviously, this is this guy's thing, but getting to know your target, their route, what they're doing, what they're doing, what their weaknesses are. and figuring out how you can exploit them, or looking at other opportunities that could lead you an in to get, to get close to them.
Mm-hmm.
And of course you got to think about how you're going to get out, or especially if you're dealing with multiple targets, like 2 or even 3. Is there any way I could just swiftly get them all in one hit? No pun intended, but there's a lot more like planning and that's involved than just kind of sneaking around an enemy, and if they see you, then you have to run away for a little while. Once you're detected, then there's dire consequences.
Mm-hmm. And you basically have to. Oh, sorry. You can
go. Just like, because if you're detected, you can still change out of your disguise, but that just also means that all the guards and our law enforcement is going to be alert, so you'll be able to get away with less shit, or there'll be more guards getting in your way.
Mm-hmm.
So there's consequences to being detected. It's not just run away, hide in a locker for a little bit, and then you're good.
Yeah, like it's a bit more involved compared to other stealth games, because like you're in most of the games you're pretty much given like a map or like a location, and you have to go after specific targets, and from there with most of the games, we'll get to a few that do the exception here, you basically have multiple routes to take them out, and that is where the appeal of the series comes in. It's where you're given so much freedom to be able to tackle your own tackle the objective, and that is something that I just love. Especially like you mentioned earlier, you're given like the disguise system, which obviously some stealth games do have those elements, but with Hitman, that's like a core feature of the franchise. That's a staple that's been around since the beginning, and that just allows for some of the best just eliminations, and just some of the best, like, honestly, I even would say that just a lot of intrigue for how Agent 47 is able to accomplish his mission. So, which obviously the storylines that do kind of are told throughout this series, some are better than others, but in general, though, just the fact that like he's been doing this for over 20 years is already just insane to think about. Yeah. But
I believe Agent 47's age is, I believe he's somewhere in his late 50s, actually. Like, I think he's 58 years old.
Yeah, which is like damn.
He's an old man. Well, I mean, he's not an old man, but like in that profession, he's pretty old.
Yeah,
and he's still if not the best.
Yeah, because like, oh yeah, and by the way, just as a bit of a warning, we're gonna go over spoilers whenever we actually do talk about these games. Just as a huge warning. So if you don't want spoilers, I suggest you just leave like this entire stream. But Agent 47 is actually a clone of this one guy. I forgot his actual name, but the reason why he doesn't really age that much is because he actually has the reverse thing as Snake from Metal Gear, where he's given like basically reversed aging or something like that. So like he doesn't like age as fast.
Well, 47 was, and a lot. Well, I won't get too much into spoilers, but I mean it's on the. But he was created using the shared DNA of 5 different men. The 5 they are known as the 5 fathers, which include, a German scientist, a Colombian drug lord, an Austrian terrorist, like the leader of an Austrian terrorist group, a Kazaki, like from Kazakhstan, a Kazaki, I believe he's an runner. He's an arms runner.
Yeah,
he's a Kazakh, like, and a Chinese triad leader, like a leader of a Hong Kong-based triad. So mainly from like criminals, but like people who are very efficient at killing and planning. Very Machiavellian, if you will.
Yeah, and obviously we'll get into like the specifics with like those storylines. But basically, Agent 47 in a lot of ways is pretty much a badass, and he's genetically modified to basically be a badass. So now that being said, though, before we actually get into the list, normally I would go over like just sort of the ground rules for this, but there really isn't actually that many rules that I have to really say about this. The only one that I will just say is we're not including the spin-off games, so Sniper Challenge and Hitman Go will not count for this. This is only the mainline games. So Codename 47, Silent Assassin, Contracts, Blood Money, Absolution, and then the World of Assassination trilogy. So we're only going to be ranking them off of that. So, and then also, just do keep in mind that this is our personal opinions. So if you disagree with us, that is completely fine. As a matter of fact, you can disagree with us as much as you can. Just don't give me hate comments. Just go away if you're going to do that. You're not cool. You're not clever. You are just kind of a rude person. But another thing I will say is if you want to check out Goldie's other stuff, their Instagram will be posted on the side on the chat. So if you want to check out their art, because that is what they typically do, feel free to check that out. So
I actually just finished up and posted something today. So
ooh, that's interesting.
Started something
a little bit of a hype right there, if you know what I mean.
If you really like art.
So, and then, oh yeah, one other thing. So obviously, as you can see, because similar to the Halo and Total War lists, because there aren't as many games on here, we've reduced the amount of actual tierings there are. So the top tier is the True Assassin, which is basically just like the S tier here. Amazing games. The Professional are games that do have their issues, but I would still recommend them. Then we've got the Perpetrator, which is it's not bad, but you know it could be worse. And then you know what Absolution means. If anyone knows anything about the Hitman series, you know what that means. So, and then I do actually have one tier called Haven't Played, but that's only because of one specific game, because I personally want to make sure that, you know, I'm not just talking out of anywhere. So the only game I've not played is the newest game, Hitman 3, out of the World of Assassination trilogy, because, well, I just can't afford it right now. So, but I have for sure played all the other ones, and even then, I can pretty much just assume that it's going to be very similar to the first of the World of Assassination trilogy anyways. But yeah, I don't want to make assumptions, so... But either way, yeah, like I just want to make sure I'm authentic in terms of my rankings. So before we actually get into this list, do you have anything that you want to say? So
no, not quite. I think I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get going and talk a bunch of shit and a lot of praise about this.
Alrighty then. So I guess that's your call. Let's just get right into this. And this shouldn't be too long anyways. This shouldn't be like 8 hours like I've done before. So alright. So let's start with the original game in the series, Hitman Codename 47. This came out in the year 2000. So
we're coming out swinging too with this one.
So, just for context, this one is an interesting title. Could we put it that way?
It's a very I watched a YouTuber, I forgot his name, who described this game, who was playing and pretty much like talking about this game, and he described it as being very dirty. It looks dirty, it plays dirty, It feels dirty. It's a dirty game, and I think it's a really perfect description to describe this game.
Yeah, so let me try to describe this game. This game is basically a it's a game that uses tank controls while being right directly behind Agent 47's head. That's basically how I would describe the game. Like, or at least like how like it controls. Now, as for its gameplay, basically it's a stealth game, but with not a lot of stealth. So, pretty much the whole point of this game is that, like, you know, you're Agent 47 and you have to do contracts, but then you start learning that these contracts are more connected than they seem, and it actually connects with what Goldie was saying.
For the five fathers.
Yeah,
basically,
and
your fathers, your dads, I guess, in a genetic sense at least.
Yeah, you go up against 3 out of the 5 in this game.
You have no mommy.
Huh?
You have no mommy. You only have 5 dads.
Wow, no wonder why Agent 47's like that. He has way too many mommy issues. Anyways, or he has many daddy issues.
Lack thereof mommy issues and too many daddy issues.
Okay, okay, you know what? I think I'm tiptoeing this a little bit. Usually, I'm not someone who likes to talk shit about the first of a game franchise, because it's like, it's the first in the franchise, and you know it's going to be rough in comparison to other games.
But
that being said,
even for the time period, this game was...
I'm gonna have to put this in absolution.
Yeah, even for the time period, this game was janky as fuck to play. The graphics, I feel like, have not aged well. There's a weird render distance that makes you feel like you're in Silent Hill. It doesn't include... Again, this is unfair, but... You know, if we're going to compare it to the other Hitman games, so y'all can get, like, an idea, you would think that this game would have at least some of the Hitman staples, you know, multiple kill options and disguises and the like, and for one, or at the very least, an emphasis on stealth. They want you to...
It has the illusion of stealth. I think that's the best description of this game. It has the illusion of stealth.
It wants you to think it's stealth, but you really can't. In fact, I believe in the Columbia mission, there is no stealth involved.
Oh my god, don't even fucking get me started on that. Okay, so that brings up another point. So for generalized context, there's like 3 or 4 locations in this game. There's Hong Kong, there's Colombia, and then there's like Central Europe, like Austria and like Hungary. So
Hungary, yeah.
So like, but they are like basically separate. Like they're like generalized missions, but they're separated into like different levels, and so like each area has like between 3 to 5 levels. And yeah, no, like, the game itself is super fucking linear. Like, I'm just gonna be honest right now. Like, there's only one way to go about every single mission, and it gets infuriating sometimes. Especially with those goddamn Columbia missions you just mentioned. Because there's no stealth in those missions. Like, and that wouldn't necessarily sound bad, but we didn't even get to the worst part of the controls.
But the level itself, it wouldn't be so bad if the levels themselves were not poorly designed, which they are. Even for the time period, they are, even for 2000, they are very poorly timed. Or not poorly timed, I'm sorry, poorly designed.
Yeah, because
and a part of that is the controls.
Yeah, like, originally, so they actually did change up the controls at least somewhat, but originally, you did not use the WASD keys for, like, moving up and down. Hell, you didn't even use arrow keys. You used the number pad. I am not joking. Literally, this confused me whenever I first played this. The default that it tells you to do is with a number pad, and for some reason they decided to make it to where the controls. Granted, I will admit they're not too dissimilar to Silent Hill 2's controls on PC at least, but the thing is that like you move super fucking quickly with like your motions are so jarringly fast. Like every time you turn, it's like he's fucking darting. Or the fact that like there's a run button and a walk button. But the thing is that the run button, like they are two completely different speeds. Like the walk button is way too slow, but the run button is way too fast. And the camera does not work with this, especially if it's in like close quarters. Like if you're trying to play this game like in like a close quarters like environment, it is so goddamn disorienting. Like oh my god.
Have fun running in.
Yeah, like good luck trying to fucking run through that. And combine that with the fact that again, there's no stealth in the Columbia missions, and combine that even more with the fact that you literally die in like 3 shots. I don't fucking know why they tried to make this like, you know, tactical shooter logic, but you literally like die in like 3 or 4 shots and you're dead. Like fucking Metal Gear Solid and Thief, 2 games that came out 2 years prior to this that are also stealth games, allowed for way much more of a reaction time out of it. Like way less of a like strict like reaction time from you. And yet they do their stealth and their, you know, shooting way better than this. So like again, I wouldn't be shitting on this game so much if those games didn't come out just a few years prior. And I think that's the biggest issue with Codename 47 is that even compared to other stealth games at the time, this game fucking sucks. Like, I hate to break it to you, but like again, usually I wouldn't be this stingy on like a first game. And to be fair, because it is a first game, like obviously it does lay down the groundworks for future games to come and improve, but man, this was a rough start, even for the year 2000. Like,
it's oh my genuinely, God. It's genuinely the way this game was. It's genuinely surprising that it got a sequel. Let alone,
yeah,
like,
no, this is an example of a franchise where it's like I can't believe it got a sequel. Like, this game is bad, which it thankfully did. But my God, it's bad. It's really, really bad.
I guess that will be a really good transition to the next game.
Yeah, no, Silent Assassin. 2 years later, this game came out.
By some miracle, they decided that they wanted to give this game another shot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a game I'm actually not too familiar with, so I'll let you do most of the talking about this one.
Okay, so yeah. So basically, you obviously complete your missions in the first game, and you kill like 3 of your 5 like fathers, and then. Yes. This game, pretty much, the story with this is... Admittedly, this is a little bit juxtaposition, but Agent 47 basically kind of, like, is, like, done with assassinating already. Yeah, he already retires. Yes, the second game in, he retires.
And you open up in... And what does become your hub world is... he decides to move to Italy, to like rural Italy, like Tuscany, and he joins up with a Catholic convent as like a groundskeeper, sort of with like the mentorship of the priest there, Father. I think his name is Father Gabriel. No, that's more.
But I don't think it's that important. Point is that like he basically joins like a Italian Catholic monastery. Like he becomes a missionary. So
Father Vittoro is his name. Father Vittoro.
Yeah. And so he goes there, but then this rogue group pretty much kidnaps him, and you basically have to do a bunch of like contracts in order for you to like save him. But then later on, that obviously gets he gets double like it basically gets doubled down against, and so you have to basically like find a way to fucking, you know, make sure that your mentor doesn't die. So
yeah.
And despite this game actually being on the same engine as the first game, because I noticed this whenever I actually recently kind of like skimmed over this game just so I can remind myself, it is on the same engine, but this game is a much better improvement overall from the original. And this is the game where we talked about earlier, where there's a lot more options for you at the table. This game introduced the idea of like multiple ways to engage against a target. This was the game that introduced, if a bit more, you know, basic compared to later games, a much more like, you know, basically like an actual semblance of a story, and much varied environments, because you go all over like the world in this game. You go to Italy, like we mentioned before. You go to Russia. You go to Japan. You go to India. You go to Malaysia, Afghanistan, even for a mission. Like, this is a pretty varied game. And honestly, I think that overall, I'm going to put this in the professional / the A/B tier. Because I think that this is a much better improved game, but it does have some flaws. So the biggest one, sorry, you go.
Especially considering, I think what mainly props this game up to such a high level would just be the massive improvement that it made on the second game, as this was the game. This was the game that really actually kicked off the Hitman franchise. It was this game that got people's attention, that actually entertained people, and this is the game that's credited for building for. Of course, the first game lays down the groundwork, but this game introduced what would become, you know, the Hitman games that we know of today.
Honestly, I personally would like, a part of me honestly wants to consider this game to be like the first real game, if that makes, like, I hate using that, like, you know, against the first game, but it's like, this is like really like the first game where it's like your choices really kind of matter. And not only that, but, well, okay, let me rephrase that. Like, this is like the first game where it's like basically like all the features that you know of with this franchise really began. And like I said, there's more of a semblance of a story here rather than like sort of vague, you know, semblance of a story, which, you know, was at least somewhat of a connector between missions. So, and I find that pretty interesting. Now, that being said, though, the reason why I'm not putting this game up at True Assassin is because of a few like minor things. Basically, there are three things that do kind of make this game, like, you know, at least a bit more aged than I wish it did. For starters, the suspicion meter. This is the game that added the suspicion meter, which basically, you know, it shows you how long you are being able to get detected or whatever, right? Well, sometimes it works, and other times it really doesn't, if that makes sense. Like, this, like, funny enough, this game does actually kind of have like a very early version of what would appear in later games, where some enemies do know that you're disguised while like others like don't, you know, like that mechanic that was introduced. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Still here.
Oh, sorry. I just want to make sure I'm like not just talking in the void. But anyways.
No, I'm letting you talk because I don't know as much about this game as you do.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, basically like that mechanic, it does kind of appear here, but you don't know who knows like everyone in like the vicinity. And so if you walk across just one random guard, oh, he'll know that you're like an enemy and will start immediately shooting you, which is really dumb. Like, especially like once you notice that, like, you know, if you put on the same outfit and go against the same guard but in different saves, sometimes they'll go after you, sometimes they won't. That inconsistency does get annoying I will admit, with this game. And so because of like the way that disguises, like the suspicion meter works, that gets annoying sometimes. Also, admittedly, the levels that take place in Japan aren't very good. Because they do somewhat take cues from the Columbia missions from the previous game. So, granted, they're not nearly as bad as them, but you're so out, like you're out in like the open, and like enemies. Like the thing is that there's one particular mission with those like Japanese levels where you basically had to go from like the edge of a fort all the way up to a castle. In like this open field with no one except snipers. But for some reason, the snipers know that you're already disguised, which, yeah, that part does fucking suck. If I'm just gonna be honest, like, ugh. Thankfully the castle level is actually pretty fun though. But then there's the biggest flaw I feel like with this game, and it's how the enemies like it. Once you get basically once you get detected by some, like if you take a look at disguise or whatever and you like take out a guard but you don't kill him, he will like after like a certain amount of time that guard will wake up, have a fucking Final Destination moment or like a That's So Raven moment where he is like, oh shit, and then like he sees the fucking like future or whatever, I don't fucking know, and then immediately goes to like the nearest guard where they pull the alarm and immediately go to your position. It's fucking stupid. Like, and oh my god, it that fucking gets annoying every time that shit happens, because it basically makes it to where you have to kill everyone, like even like non-targets, just so that you don't get detected. And that gets super frustrating. It doesn't happen all the time, thankfully. As a matter of fact, like it's not like super common, but it's common enough to where that alone, like if you like the knockout, like if you knock out a guard, you're gambling whether or not you're going to get detected or not, because of that stupid fucking, fifth eye opening. Oh shit, I know where this person is. All of a sudden, it's stupid. Like, I don't know how else to describe it other than just absolute bullshit. Like, so it is a good game, but it's a deeply flawed game, is basically what I'm trying to say. So, like, again, because professional tier is kind of making up for the fact that there isn't as many like tiers. If we were doing a A tier, like a separate A tier and a separate B tier, this would be closer to a B tier because of that. So just keep that in mind. It's a good game, but it's a deeply flawed one. So I know you said you didn't have much to say, but like, do you have anything else after that?
No, I don't really have much to say. This is probably the Hitman game other than the first one, that I know the least about. Well, actually, no, this would be the Hitman game I know the least about, because now more recent games I know more about.
Well, how do you feel about dealing with people who like have the same power as Raven from That's So Raven?
That's not fair, to say the least. That should not be a thing in a stealth game, because then it's punishing you for things that are out of your control. There should be a level of anytime shit goes down and the cover's blown, it should be your fault. It should not be just a thing that the game does. It should be your fault.
Well, too bad, because the same thing happens in Hitman contracts. So, okay, so admittedly with Hitman contracts, I know, great transition, right?
Yeah.
With Hitman contracts, this one is like the least talked about out of the franchise. Like, not a lot of people like really talk about it that much, but I don't think that's fully warranted, though I understand why. So basically, the story with this one is it follows up on the events of what just happened with Hitman 2 just a few years later, and you basically get in like a failed like hit contract, like literally, like then in the name contracts, because you failed one of your contracts. And you're kind of it. Most of the game basically plays in like flashbacks, which I know that's like a stereotypical thing for games to do, but
yeah.
whatever. So you're basically going through like all the events that pretty much led up to that as well. And this is the thing that like made a lot of people weary about this game, because this game is not only like half an original game, but it's also half a remake of Codename 47. Because like not a lot of people played the original game, rightfully so.
Yeah, as they should.
IO Interactive wanted to go back and basically like redo a lot of those missions, specifically the Hong Kong missions and the Hungarian missions.
Not Hungarian. I don't know why I keep mixing those up, but yeah, Hungarian.
So like, and that's actually not that bad, especially since they added in a lot of the features that was also in this game, which included a lot of the stuff that was in the previous game, Silent Assassin, but also basically like a more fleshed out, like basically like a better inventory manager. Basically, this is the game that introduced like the rotating inventory, where you're able to like, it's more of a wheel rather than like, just a list, which makes things way easier for you to actually see. This was also the game where, Hitman 2 did change up the map from the first game, but this is like the first game where the map, I feel like was way easier. Like there was a lot of an easier convey of where your targets were and whatever. It didn't have a key, but like it didn't have like a map legend. But you at least knew where your targets were and all that fun stuff. And generally speaking, this game is basically like a quality of at first it seems like it's more of a quality of life game, like improvement compared to Hitman Silent Assassin. But if I am going to be a bit honest, other than like the small like changes that they made with like mostly UI related stuff, it's basically the same game, just with like slightly improved graphics,
better gameplay.
Yeah, and like just the fact that this is the game where you're kind of going after like the final father, and so because it didn't improve the things that I wish would have been improved on, I am gonna put this in the perpetrator tier, the C/D tier, though it is closer to a C tier. It's mostly just because it feels more like an expansion rather than a full-fledged sequel, which is not a bad thing. As a matter of fact, I actually do like some of my favorite games of all time basically feel like more or less expansions of the previous game. I mean, for fuck's sake, Sly 3 is literally like it's almost nearly identical in gameplay compared to Sly 2. So, and I love that game. Some people there's a lot of people who, would say that Far Cry 4 is basically just, a glorified expansion of Far Cry 3 in a lot of ways. But I actually prefer Far Cry 4 over Far Cry 3, though that's a whole other list for another time. But I feel like this one just was against its detriment, especially since, honestly, the reason why this game isn't really as talked about is because the levels themselves aren't really that memorable. Like, if I'm going to be honest, I barely remember the levels in this game. Like,
no, which is like you only remember the stuff that came from the original game because for a reason I forget a lot. Like looking it up online, like a lot of these are so foreign to me. Like you go to England, you go to Beldingford Manor, and you or Rotterdam, you take out like a biker gang or whatever, biker gang leader in Rotterdam, or Budapest, and it's kind of
The only memorable mission other than like the beginning sequence where again, spoiler alert, where you're like basically like underneath, like in a lab underneath like a mental facility, is this weird meat party that you go to. Like you're basically in like a warehouse where like it's like meat themed. It's really weird, it's gross, and it's like
the sergeant, the meat king, is an extremely like obese Scotsman.
Yeah, like that was just a weird mission. So, like, and it's memorable for the wrong reasons. But
yeah, just being a little bit too weird. But it's very interesting you bring that up because I actually didn't realize like how forgettable sadly a lot of the missions and by extension the targets are, because the targets are just as in, you know, in a Hitman game, you want the targets to be memorable, even if it's not just the way you kill them, but just their character as well is very important. And it's hard to really describe them because I can't really remember. The only reason you remember the Meat King, I don't even know his name. I just call him the Meat King. Just Campbell.
I just remember the level. I don't even remember his fucking name.
His name is Campbell Sturrock. I just remember him because his appearance is so unusual, because he's morbidly obese. He can't even walk. So, but that's about it. You know, but
yeah, like it's not a bad game, but it's in my opinion, one of the weaker entries. So,
but now we go on to.
Well, actually, before we do that, I forgot to mention to you with this because I know you're newer to this series, but did you want to give like where you put the first 3 games like on the tier? Because I forgot to say that.
To be honest, I would. I agree with your opinions on contracts and the first game, but I would honestly put Hitman 2 in the Perpetrator level because it seems a little bit more flawed than it is. It's still great because it's not great, but it's still definitely an improvement. It actually plays like a game. It doesn't use the number pads, it's fucking controls. But I think it still has a lot of flaws that are needed to iron out. But at the same time, it's not bad because it definitely, admittedly, yes, it didn't really have much of a high bar. The bar wasn't really raised that high that it had to jump over, if you will. And it succeeded in that, and I think it does deserve credit for that. And actually, like what you said, paving the way for, like, actually paving the way for Hitman games to come. So I put it a little lower, but for everything else, my opinion still kind of runs along with yours.
All right, fair enough. So it would be Absolution, Perpetrator.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, I just want to make sure since you are new here, so.
Yep. But
anyways,
now
we can talk about Blood Money. So
now we can talk about better ones.
Honestly, I'm already just gonna say this right now. I'm gonna put this in Professional, almost to True Assassin. So
yeah, very close.
Yeah, this is a truly solid game right here. I don't think it's the best in the series, though. If the World of Assassin, okay, well, actually, that kind of spoils that. But it's a pretty solid entry. So basically, the whole point of this game is, well, you already dealt with like the 5 fathers, and so where do you go from here? Well,
now you're working with the. Well, you've already been working with the ICA. But
yeah, you've already been working with them, but where do you go from? Who's your next main person? Well, considering that you are playing as an assassin and you do a bunch of like murders, there's bound to be someone to start questioning whether or not those like murders and like those hits are connected somehow. And so let's meet our antagonist, who's in a wheelchair, which
wheelchair guy. And I'm not making that. I know he has a name, but 47 does actually call him Wheelchair Guy. Like, because I'm pretty sure 47 eventually learns his name. but he prefers to call him Wheelchair Guy. He is.
Yeah, what's his name again? Alexander Kane.
With a Y. He is a former FBI director who, in some accident, got two-faced and became a. What would you? He can use one arm, but that's about it. A triple chick.
So. Okay, so I'm just gonna get this part right out of the way. I do think that like the whole idea of him being obsessed with like Agent 47 is a little bit dumb because it's like it's not just Agent 47 who's doing a bunch of contract kills. It's the whole ICA, like it's the whole like ICA doing that.
The whole ICA has more assassins than just 47, which you learn especially in the later trilogy.
Well, you already learned that with contracts, like they make it a point that like you're not the only one who's hired. Like it's a whole
thing. It's an agency. You just happen to be one of the best.
So
that doesn't mean you're not, or that all the other assassins aren't also skilled killers.
So yeah, no. And so admittedly, I feel like in terms of like the story, like that's one weak aspect of this game. And the other weak aspect, at least for me at least, this may not be for everyone, but the fact that you're in America for like 80% of the game, I feel like was a bit like I kind of wish you weren't in America as much in this game. Like I guess that makes sense because, the main antagonist is a former FBI dude. But I feel like if they could have I feel like it would have been a much nicer change of pace if either you had a few more missions that took place in Chile or in Paris, instead of just the two for both, like just for like the one for both of those respectively.
Other countries, or just other countries that haven't gone to before.
Yeah, but don't let that like be a deterrent though, or like fully, because in terms of, sorry, what?
I'll describe it. Like if you don't mind, if I can describe it, because like I'm much more familiar with. I feel like I've been kind of silent.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do agree that because I think one of the pros of Hitman is it's almost like you get to travel the world, and that's a part of the appeal. Explore different cultures and different environments, and setting it primarily in the United States is a bit of a downside. You don't get that. You don't feel like you're going on a big trip around the world. That being said, though, they do a really good job of at least choosing very different parts of the United States. You start in Philadelphia in an abandoned, I believe it's Philadelphia in an abandoned amusement park. You go to New Orleans, not New Orleans. You go to, you do go to New Orleans. You go to New Orleans. You go to rural Mississippi, in the swamps. You go to San Diego. You go to Vegas.
Go to Vegas. Yeah.
You go to a lot of different parts of the U.S. that are all very different in their own right, which is nice. I think that kind of makes up for it. At least they didn't go with very like the samey type locations. Whereas most of the other Hitman games feel like you're traveling around the world. This one just feels like you're like traveling around the country. Which maybe I'm biased because I'm American, but that's nice too. And again, maybe I am biased, but at least like they still change up the environments, and each of them is very unique in their own way. And by extension, the targets are for the most part very unique.
Like this. Oh, sorry. I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You go on. I'll let you make your point.
Well, I was about to say that, like, in terms of just the variance of different kills, and like ways to assassinate your target, they go way beyond in this game. Like, this is the first game that introduced the accidents system, where basically there's designated spots where you can actually come up with, different types of assassinations for each of these targets that you go after. And so instead of just, sneaking up behind them and like strangling them or just shooting behind them with like your silenced pistol, you have a bunch of other options, including the one in Paris where you can actually exchange a fake gun for a real one and basically just have the actor shoot like your target and they get in trouble. So
it was a stage accident, which is my favorite which, fun fact, is my favorite kill in the entire franchise.
Yeah,
Is
it's
just
like
that it's so smooth, and if you time it right, you can get it so the second target, because they're like the two targets are implied lovers, and he will be distraught and run down to the stage and will trip on the carpet. And if you time it right, you can bomb the chandelier in the opera house, and that falls on him. So you get a really perfectly executed, like, two accidents happening at the same time, and both to targets who very, 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 very much deserve it because they run a child sex trafficking ring. So
yeah, fuck
they
that. Which that's the other thing.
almost,
Like this game definitely made you hate the targets even more.
which is good
Like
if you want. And some are more likable than others in a sense, like they're evil, but like you, some are the only, but you kind of you hate them. You learn to hate them. I'll scratch. That's more so for the later targets. They add a little bit more charm, but for these targets, these are actually, and well, that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think they're both good things. Like these are targets that you're not going to feel sympathy for. Which, if you're going to kill them, it's an you wouldn't want to feel
yeah.
happy for them. Like
Another
in that,
good thing about this game, generally speaking, is they finally removed the bullshit where like, knocked out targets can wake up. This one they just indefinitely just, stay unconscious. Thank God. Yeah, like that alone makes this game way more enjoyable. But also, this was the first game that actually allowed more like basic, like not like a progression system, but like an upgrade system for your weapons. So you can add silencers, you can add more, you can add like armor piercing rounds, you can have rounds that can go through wood. Um, like there's a lot more like customization in this game for your weapons, and obviously you have to basically use that with the money that you actually earn in this, which that's the other thing, is that money isn't just used for buying like weapons or gadgets for the game. You actually use that for your upgrades now, which that's a pretty good improvement to, at least for me. Also, there's also the suspicion, like not the suspicion meter, but I forgot what the system is, but basically if you actually play through the campaign, like a new fresh campaign, if you like start messing up missions more and more frequently, the more likely a guard is going to detect whether or not like you are like the hitman or not, like in later missions. And I think that's a really cool system, even if it doesn't like go through for every single like even if it doesn't like affect like replays of missions. I still think it's really cool that that's even a thing,
yeah,
because it raises the stakes on whether or not you're able to take out like a target more effectively. But it also just adds a lot more just variance for replays of the entire game, which I think is pretty cool. So in that aspect, I think that was a pretty good improvement. And then I think like the last major reason why I think this game is like the best so far on this list is mostly just because like this game, it's mostly just like the like even more improved quality of life from Hitman contracts, because they they like improved the UI for the for like the purchasing screen, like the screen that you see right before you go into a mission, as well as improving the map even more by basically having a legend next to it, basically saying like it basically showcases this is a target, or if this is a like if this is just a civilian, or if this is a guard, or if it's like a law enforcement. And it also has like it basically says what room they're going to be in, which would actually play much later in like some of the later games, but that basically like if it basically plays into the accidents system. So like I like how the UI and the quality of life improvements actually tie in with the new systems that they added with this game. So I also like the newspapers. That's a pretty nice touch. Like I know some people don't care for them as much, but I think it adds a lot more intrigue to both the world as well as just what you're doing in game.
And it ties into the whole like basically the whole concept is like, well, 47 is now becoming such a prolific assassin that people are starting to question things. There's journal, like the I believe his name is Rick Henderson, I believe, the journalist with the shitty haircut. Just like he's a journalist that's inquiring, like to show that to kind of just with the theme of people of what your assassinations look like to the general public.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of does like it's small, but I understand the direction, and I think it's pretty cool.
So yeah, no, like other than like I said, like the story kind of being a bit weird, and also just I wish that there was just a bit more variance in like locales. This is a solid entry, and a solid.
I'd say like a true. Would you put it as a professional?
Yeah, I put it as a professional, like high professional. So.
Oh yeah, almost true assassin.
But so I do like the end. I also one more thing before we move on. I really love the ending.
The ending
just as like as a again spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, leave. Basically like Agent 47 fakes his death, and that's what is shown at like pretty much like like at the main menu where it looks like he's dead
at his funeral. And if I'm not wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this was the game to introduce Ave Maria as one of the game's major like themes, or as a song. Ave Maria, the song that plays during the opening screen during the main menu. Like it's
well, that was like a song like before. Like it was used in like other media before.
I know it's a very old song, but what I mean is like that Ave Maria is very much seen as like a part of the Hitman franchise. Like it's a very popular song within the game.
Oh, I get what. Yeah. This is like the first game to like use it and like use it in like a
and it's kind of iconic to the friend. I know it's like it's a song that's hundreds of years old, but
but it did make up for being in like one of the most iconic moments in the franchise, which like I said is when Agent 47 just fakes his death, rises up, and just fucking kills everyone, including Kane. Which he just which I think that's definitely like one of the honestly, that's gotta be one of the best endings to a game. Like in my opinion. Like it's so cool.
But from one of the best
where do we but yeah, where do we go from here after, we have such an amazing game in the franchise, and we have an villain, but at least like a memorable villain, like in somewhat an okay way. Where do we go from here?
Memorable levels, fun to hate, and memorable antagonists. We go from that to Absolution. Now, considering that there is a separate tier for this game, specifically made for this tier, and since that tier is not it's not in a really nice spot, I think it's very obvious as to where Absolution is going to. It's going into the Absolution tier. And this game, you could tell that IO decided to get kind of ambitious with this one. And in some ways I understand, because they really wanted to focus on developing 47's character. Make him more than just a cold assassin. which is something that Hitman 2 did kind of touch up on a little bit either. And I will usually never pass up the opportunity to expand a character, to make them more human. That being said, it was not worth it. And I don't believe it did that kind. I didn't really do it well because Hitman 2 already had 47 go through his arc of him if he is a human, or if he could, or if his like conflicts with religion and God, like his character conflicts, and he already went through his arc of accepting that this is what he does best, this is what he's made for, and this is what he's gonna do. So while I can appreciate wanting to see a more compassionate side to 47, and in ways, he does have a more compassionate side to him, this was a very big misstep because, like the first Hitman game, this is a lot more linear in that, or at the very least, the way the story is structured, where so basically the main story, no spoilers ahead for Absolution.
Spoilers.
Is you 47 are sent to murder Diana Burnwood, who has been your handler ever since the first game. I believe, other than 47, she is the only other character to appear in every Hitman game. So, and
she barely appears in the first one, but
barely, but she does appear. She's, a long-time character, and she is pretty much at this point the only person in 47's life that he has a relationship with, that he does like care for in a way. Like they have like a 47 and Diana have a interest. They have like a bond in a sense. They have like a really strong friendship. So this is a bit of an emotional. This is different from 47's other contracts for the most part, where this definitely has an emotional attachment, because you learn that Diana betrayed the ICA, and that can't go. So, and the reason why Diana betrayed the ICA was because the ICA had basically wanted to create their own assassin like 47 in the form of Victoria, who at this point is like a teenage girl. And Diana, feeling, not agreeing with this project, feeling bad for Victoria, she takes Victoria away from the facility so she can, and sends her, I believe she sends her to a Catholic orphanage in Chicago.
yeah.
And so in the hopes that, that she doesn't end up like 47 and, just live a life of killing, and that Victoria can have a chance at a normal life. And Diana's last wish when when 47 ultimately goes through with the job, is to take care of Diana, make sure that she's safe, make sure the ICA don't get her. And since Diana is pretty much like 47's closest ally, his closest relationship, he agrees. So essentially, 47 defects from the ICA in order to protect Victoria, and it's a bit of a problem because the ICA isn't the only
one. Like, sorry, I hate to interrupt you. Which I'm not gonna lie, it does at least sound interesting on paper. Because the thing is that like you weren't really questioning the ICA too much throughout like the series. You were just kind of doing like contracts for them or whatever. And so like trying to like change things up a little bit, it makes sense, and I can at least respect that. But how did that turn out though?
It did not turn out really well. So the ICA ain't the only ones who want Victoria. There is this funny little arms dealer kingpin named Blake Dexter from South Dakota, which shows that the devs don't really know much about the Dakotas, because they make South Dakota seem like Texas because it has the word South in it. But since he's mainly his business is illegal arms smuggling, the idea him attaining this supposed super assassin is too good to ignore. So he sends his goons to kidnap Victoria. So this kidnap Victoria, and so you're kind of on the run at different locations, trying to find Victoria. All the while, the ICA are on your ass because not only do they want Victoria, but you have also defected from the agency, and they understand that you are one of their most dangerous assassins. So you are a pretty big threat to them. However, this is a very
you don't have to go into like specifics about the story, but like it might not sound like it's as bad as we're saying it as it is, but like the thing is that this Dexter character is literally fucking, oh my god.
He's goofy. He's too comical. And there's nothing wrong with having like a comical villain, but
because like because like the thing is that he sounds like a stereotypical like rural
Texan. He's a stereotypical like tech. Basically, he kind of looks and acts like Hank from Breaking Bad. Like just think like Hank from Breaking Bad. Like that's kind of like the vibe you get with Dexter. And Hitman, just like
and basically
you go on. I'm still trying to gather my thoughts.
It's basically the whole thing is that it's basically just hijinks, like at the end of the day, and like the whole contract, like the whole point of Hitman being a contract, like basically like a stealth game for you to take out contracts, that gets thrown out the window for most of the game, which is fucking stupid because that like you end up just going around mostly in Chicago, which that's the other thing. This game mostly takes place in Chicago for like 90% of the game.
Or South Dakota. So if Hitman Blood Money was a more limited scope, but at least you still travel to varying locations.
What varied locations in Hitman Absolution?
Yeah.
We got like gray building in Chicago, we got brown building in Chicago, we've got rubble building in Chicago, we've got ourselves like a nightclub in Chicago, we go to Chinatown, but it's in Chicago.
You go to South Dakota, what do? There's small town, Hope, South Carolina. No, South Dakota. Would have made more sense if it was South Carolina, because that's a more southern state than South Dakota. Because like it's more closer to Canada than Mexico to get an idea. If you're not familiar with what the culture is like, it's Midwest, it's not South. But you go to small town, South Dakota, a laboratory in South Dakota, a police station and courthouse in South Dakota, and then you go back to Chicago in a luxury hotel apartment complex place, and then you go to England. A graveyard in England, and then it's over.
You go, the one mission, you go outside of the United States, and it literally doesn't even look like it could be outside of the United States, and you're only there for like fucking like 15 minutes.
No, it's only for an epilogue. It's only an epilogue. And let me take a look at, again, back to Blake Dexter, who is just a laughable villain, especially compared to other antagonists of the franchise. Because
he literally lets Agent 47 live just so that he can make sure that he gets framed for killing, even though he literally fucking burns up the evidence like not even like a fraction of a second later.
I'm trying to
That's how fucking stupid this villain is.
Yeah, I'm trying to find this quote because there seems to be a disconnect between what the devs intended for this character to be to what he actually came out as. Because the devs developers have said that he will be the most, quote, calculated and ruthless antagonist in the series so far, and will be Agent 47's toughest challenger. Which I'd like to give that a big fat
wait.
no.
Read that again, please. Read that again.
Developers have said that he will be the most, quote, calculating and ruthless antagonist in the series so far, and will be Agent 47's toughest challenger. Considering that the last antagonists in the series were child sex traffickers, people with inbred, molesters, corrupt.
With rhymes with grape, by the way. Rhymes with grape.
People who've done things that rhyme with grape. Ruthless assassins who do not care about collateral damage. What else would there be? A guy who literally worships the devil.
Yeah, I don't think this guy in Absolution is Agent 47's most ruthless antagonist.
He's no saint, but he is not the most, and he's not the most ruthless or calculating. He's not, Sly has just pointed out, he's not a very calculating person.
Well, not only that, but also he's not even technically the main villain. I don't even remember the main villain's name.
Benjamin Travis, which is at the time, director of the ICA, the guy with the robot hand.
Oh, that guy. Oh god. Oh yeah, that's another thing that that gets fucking annoying. The whole rogue part of an agency thing. That I don't like that storyline. They did the same thing in Splinter Cell, and I fucking hated it there. Like,
it's just like, this idea for a story is not bad, but when put into Hitman, it doesn't work because it completely defeats the whole purpose of the game.
We didn't even talk about gameplay, by the way, which is
the best part of the game, would be that it has good gameplay, but that being said, none of the levels are particularly memorable. None of the targets are really memorable either, for the most part.
Oh yeah, there's also these like weird like nuns that just come out of nowhere.
Like, yeah, there's the Saints. Not the Third Street Saints, but they are a group of nun assassins, and it is very weird. And that leads to another
fucking stupid.
And that leads to another weird critique I have with this game. This game is weirdly horny. For whatever reason, this game is like unusually like horny.
And not in the Uncharted 2 way, by the way, in a weirder and like creepier way.
A creepier, semi-tasteless way, like immature way. Forget the fact that one level does take place in a strip club. Lots of characters, mainly female characters, are sexualized quite a bit. Even Diana to an extent, because you shoot her while she's naked in the shower. And that's like the most tame example. But a lot of the
I don't even want to go into specifics, mainly just because of TOS. But like, you get our point. This game is not. It's hold on. Where's Fantano? Where's my boy Fantano? Shit, I don't have Fantano on here. Hold on.
One of the targets has a peculiar interest in being tied up, but that's about as far as I'll go. So Twitch doesn't get mad at our friend Sly.
Yeah, please don't get me fucking like knocked down.
I'm sorry.
Hold on, where's my Fantano? Oh, he's over here. Yeah, no, this game is
it's not good.
Oh shit. Did not mean that to that. Whatever. You get our point. It's
this is
not good.
It's tasteless in some areas.
And of course, guess where this is going on my list as well?
Absolution.
In the Absolution tier.
And
it's a bad game.
It's a bad game.
Like,
if it weren't
story sucks, gameplay's mediocre, no varied locations, absolute like removing features from the previous game that were cool, including accidents. Granted, okay, admittedly, it and also what also did is that it fucked up the cost. It fucked up the disguises because it's like if you play like for example, if you play as a construction worker around, every other construction worker knows that you're not a construction worker and will immediately call you out for that. It's like, what the fuck is up with that?
Which on a level that makes sense because yeah, you would know the people you work with, but it makes for incredibly annoying gameplay.
It's fucking stupid. Well, it's stupid and it's annoying because it's like it doesn't allow you to fucking like get shit that you need done.
It defeats the purpose of it.
Yeah, it defeats the purpose of using a disguise.
So like, yeah, I get the idea. Like, obviously, if you've worked with this crew at a construction office here, you know, for a while, you would know all your coworkers. But
oh shit,
that doesn't
I did it again.
Just because it's and I won't get too much into this argument, but just because it is realistic does not mean that makes it good gameplay.
Well, it's not even fucking realistic because it's like people like not every goddamn person who works at a specific place knows every goddamn person.
True. I worked at a department store and I only knew the people in my department, so I guess there is some credit to that.
And so yeah, no, dumb game, stupid story, stupid premise,
features,
mediocre at best gameplay, and just not an enjoyable villain. And also, like, going back on a lesson that was in previous games, and then also having, like, the shoehorned in, yeah, like, little girl character that we don't see in future games, by the way. So this whole purpose of, like, you know, him, like, looking over this is all pointless. So, yeah.
You can tell. But thankfully, though, you can tell that IO wants to forget about this game. Apart from a couple references, and I do mean, like, one or two references here or there, IO does want to forget this game. I do get the vibe that now they are pretty disappointed in this one. Because, like you said, this game's plot and just story hardly ever gets mentioned. I wouldn't be surprised if IO would come out and say that this game just isn't canon to the Hitman universe, and I wouldn't be surprised because it is so detached from it. So I guess that's a good transition to.
Well, did you say where this is in?
This is in the Absolution, as it should be, since it's this special place for it. A special place in hell, if you will, for this game.
Although one thing I will have to say about this, at least it controls okay. That is not something I can say about 47. 47's controls are, yeah. Like as much as we're memeing on Absolution, don't get it fucking twisted. It's at least better than the original. Anything's better than the original. Like that game almost gave me PTSD with how bad it is.
When I mentioned Colombia, you got very unreasonably angry.
Yeah, no, those missions, like I'm shocked that got past testing. Like,
funny because
that made me cry.
Which is funny because in the later games, the level set in Colombia would go on to be some of the most iconic. But thankfully, IO knew that this.
Hold on, I gotta get one more of these things because for fucking whatever reason, it's not showing. Fantano fucking show. God damn it. Hold on, sorry. It's just this is just awkward to fucking.
We need to make this joke.
But yeah, no, this Hitman Codename 47 and Hitman Absolution.
Special fuck tier.
Hold on. That's not what I'm trying to do. God damn it. Hold on.
It's not good.
Yeah, not good. Not good.
Not good at all.
You didn't see it because I can't link it with my voice mod.
But thankfully, IO realized what they did, that they did wrong. And in my opinion, they completely made up for it by beginning what ultimately, in my opinion, for me at least, cemented Hitman as a really solid franchise, especially in recent years, by releasing the first in the new Hitman trilogy.
Yep. Hitman 2016, also known as Hitman World of Assassination 1, whatever you want to call it.
I would give, to come out, to hit the ground running here, I would go as far as to give Hitman 2016 a true assassin ranking. Because because this game, much like Hitman 2, it had to prove itself. Because Hitman Absolution did not get really good reception. And
it didn't?
I don't believe it did. I believe it got meh to bad reception. I don't believe it, at least among Hitman fans. Yeah, I don't believe it's a very liked game in the community.
That's very interesting.
But with Hitman 2016, I think they more than made up for it. They took a franchise that was down and they completely brought it back up. They brought it to even greater levels than Blood Money was, in my opinion.
I blame Kane and Lynch for how bad Absolution is, by the way. You don't want to know about Kane and Lynch.
I've heard of that game. I've heard of those two games. I haven't seen much of them, but I just know that people like the first one and the second one was...
They're not worth your time. They're not worth your time.
But I guess that'll be a discussion for some other time. So Hitman 2016. This is like a new chapter for the Hitman games, a new frontier. So I guess since we've started with the story for all the other ones, I'll go ahead and start with this one as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you begin. I mean, there is a prologue that begins in the late 1990s with Agent 47's initial training in the ICA, which sets up the main antagonist of the first Hitman game, or well, one of the main antagonists. The Hitman trilogy has multiple greater scope antagonists, which I do like in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And when it introduces you get to see 47 first introducing himself to the ICA, coming forward and offering his services and some of his training. So this kind of slide, you mentioned how you were very upset that Hitman Absolution took away the whole aspect of being a contract killer.
Yeah, because like that's the whole point of being a hitman, right? What's the point of being a hitman if you don't have any contracts?
Yeah. So Hitman 2016 understood this and decided, okay, we are going to greatly focus on the contract side of things.
Yay! Where's the
horn? Yeah. So at first you start out doing seemingly normal contracts, the two heads of a international illegal spy ring. You take out the two heads of that in a fashion show in Paris.
Which that leads into one of the other things. For the first time since Hitman contracts, we actually go to a bunch of areas outside the United States.
And these environments are all very breathtaking. From this fashion show in this really beautiful historic palace in Paris to a coastal village in Italy in a big Italian manor to Morocco in the midst of a huge protest and presentation to where do you go from there after Morocco? You go to...
Let's not spoil every location, but
from Italy to Paris to Japan, you go to many different locations all across the world. I don't believe Hitman 2016 has a mission set in the United States. I don't believe.
Yes, it does. It's in Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado. But greatly improves upon that. You are traveling the world, and these environments are incredibly detailed, packed full of people that makes it feel like a real living place, especially when you're at a very popular fashion show or in the midst of a civil uprising full of protesters. It's a very it's just such a very beautiful game to just sightsee around, as well as take part in the contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, with this game's story, these are seemingly normal contracts. Two heads of a secret spy ring. A scientist who wants to unleash a deadly virus. A warlord and a banker who has ripped off the Moroccan public. Seemingly normal contracts, but as you get to the final mission and into the second game, you understand that much like in the first few games, you realize that these contracts are a lot and these targets are a lot more connected than they appear to be.
Yeah, they are a lot more connected than they seem. Hey, it's like poetry, it rhymes.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
But yeah, no, honestly though, at least in terms of like narrative, this might be a hot take, but like I think that this is like some of the best narrative that the Hitman series has like seen like ever. And I like the idea that it's way more it feels like a lot more like it feels more grounded, but also like it makes it seem like there's more stakes than there was before. And I like that approach compared to Absolution, and even compare some of the other games where it's like it feels like more fantasy, but like I don't know, it just feels more tense.
If I were to spoil it slightly, which would go to the other games, you uncover, 47 and Diana. Basically, Diana becomes a lot more of a major character this time around as well. 47 and Diana basically uncover this shadow government that is running the world from pulling the strings, taking control by the shadow government by the name of Providence.
It's the New World Order.
Basically a New World Order controlled by all the world's greatest businessmen, politicians, artists, scientists. And a lot of them, if they're not, heads of it, they're associates or heralds, or
they're basically like what people think of as like the Illuminati.
Yeah,
like that's basically what they are.
Which I wouldn't be surprised if if I were to put the tinfoil hat on, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that, to some extent, exists in our world.
Okay,
but I digress.
Maybe not like a fully fledged like New World Order, but whatever. That's a whole other story. But you get like your point is that like it's basically like a shadow government, and of course, well, both Agent 47 and Diana, they start to be like, yeah, no, I feel like this is probably a bad idea for it to exist. So
we need to do something about this.
But that kind of goes more into like Hitman 2 and Hitman 3. But in terms of this game, yeah, no, they just focus more on like the contracts. But similar to the original game, at least theme-wise, they're a lot more connected. And I like that it actually went back to the formula of what they were doing with Hitman Blood Money. And I think that's pretty cool. And it's reflective upon gameplay. As a matter of fact, like the amount of options that you're given at your disposal are way more than any other game in the franchise. And that's pretty cool.
And they range from fairly mundane but effective to spectacular and very memorable in their own rights.
And hell, you even get like a bunch of like side quests that you can do throughout like the each of the levels. Like for example, like one of the most prominent ones, at least for me, was that like you're able to like set up like a fireworks display in Paris. But then you're also like for some of the other like ways for you to take out your targets include disguising as this famous like celebrity that like hides his face under the makeup, or by basically disguising as a bodyguard and luring him to like this like pavilion, or by setting up like a fake phone, like a fake like computer virus thing. Like there's so many more opportunities that are set up, and I like that. So
it's not just capturing your target at the right point. A lot of it is also manipulating your target into getting themselves into the right situation for you to strike.
And just manipulating the environments.
Yeah, or manipulating the environment, or even manipulating other people to carry out the assassination for you, much similar to traditions of the trade.
Mm-hmm. So, which is the only somewhat positive I'll give about the original game. Goddamn. But anyways, so yeah, that's pretty cool. That being said, though, I think there's like technically two, but I think the one crippling flaw, and this applies throughout all of the world of assassination games, which is an unfortunate reality, the always online DRM. That shit needs to fucking stop because it ruins games. It doesn't matter if your game is a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. If it has DRM, I'm going to call it out because it's fucking stupid. Because, like, I don't know if you know anything about that, but basically, like, for anyone who doesn't know what DRM is, it's basically digital rights management. And it basically, it's originally, like, used to, like, stop, people from pirating the game. But all it does is affect the consumer because if you get disconnected from the internet, not able to play the game. Or if you don't have, like, a code, out of the game. It's fucking stupid. They did that shit here, and it's ridiculous. Also, this was a game originally that was released as an episodic game. And unfortunately, like originally, I will fully admit this, I was going to put this at True Assassin, but considering that this game suffered the DRM scheme, and this game was released episodically throughout 2016 and 2017, that does kind of mark it down a little bit for me, despite how amazing the game is. Like, I'm not going to lie. The gameplay itself is fantastic. Like, it controls really, really smooth. And, like I said, there's just so many options for you to be able to do. And like I said, it basically takes all of the best aspects from all the previous games and just combines it into one, plus adding in a bunch of new features. So I really like that, but those two specific things unfortunately did ruin it for me with this game specifically. So also you can argue the fact that like this game isn't really as packed like as some of the other games because there's like in like most previous games there's like 15 to 20 levels, whereas with this game there's only 6 to 7, not counting the prologue and like the training levels. So because of those just weird missteps, I am gonna put this at professional, but just above Blood Money in terms of just how good this game is. Because, like I said, if it weren't for the episodic release format, and if it wasn't for the DRM, this would be in True Assassin. So, because I don't know, did you know about that or?
I did not, but even knowing that, I would still rank this as True Assassin just because I don't want to.
Again, it's not an issue now, but at launch, it was a controversial. It was a huge thing at the time. So, and I have to take that into account because, again, get your launch right, IO. Like, please. This goes for all modern games. So.
You better.
But I think it's about time, though, that we get the final game out of our system. Hitman 2 2018.
Hitman 3.
Well, I put that in the haven't played because that's the only one I haven't personally played. But
I haven't weird either. So, yeah.
Damn, we're fake fans. But you know what? This might sound weird, but Hitman 2, it's basically the same game as Hitman 2016. Like, it's hell, they literally just ported all of the maps from Hitman 2016 and put it into Hitman 2, and they did the same thing with Hitman 3. But you know what? This is the game that I'm going to put in True Assassin right there, because unlike 2016, where they released it episodically, they released all of the maps for this game day one. And not only that, but also actually added an offline mode for the game, so you didn't have to worry about the DRM. And that is amazing right there. I just have to say so myself. And also just the locations in this game. You go to Miami, you go to India, you go to fucking Colombia, not Colombia, you go to somewhere in South America. Like,
yeah. You go to
you go, again, similar to 2016, you go to a lot of varied locations, and it, like I said, it basically takes the approach of, if it ain't broke, why fix? You know?
You go to New Zealand, which is cool. New Zealand doesn't really get much.
Well, that's a prologue mission, but
true, but still, Singapore, the Maldives, Austria.
Oh yeah, you go to Mumbai, which is in India. Like, you go to a lot of, like, you know, more varied locations. And honestly, I think that this game really does benefit from, like, again, it's basically the same exact game, but basically removed the most of the DRM and removed like the forced online, and it wasn't episodic. And that's why I do consider this game, at least for me, the best in the series. And hell, from what I've even heard, I think I've heard people say that even with the new Hitman 3, that this is the best in the series. Because unfortunately, Hitman 3 had some similar issues with the 2016 game.
Argentina is the place in South America you go to. Argentina. But you do go to Colombia
Argentina.
as well. Cool.
Wait, no, Argentina's in 3, I heard.
Oh, could it? I thought it was the last. It is Hitman 3, okay, yeah, because Hitman 3 hasn't finished yet because it's episodic, so yeah.
Okay, you go to New Zealand, you go to Miami, Colombia, Mumbai in India, Wilton Creek, and then you go to Scotland. And then you go to New York, and then Maldives. There's 8 separate locations. And then there's Austria, Singapore, and Russia for the Sniper Assassin, like, game mode. Which, that's another thing. Even though we're not counting Sniper Challenge, they added that as a fully fledged game mode in this game, and I thought that was pretty cool. Hell, they surprisingly added in, like, a cooperative player versus player thing, but it's not like a traditional PvP. Basically, with this game, you basically play at the same exact time, but you're, like, in 2 different play sessions, and you basically have to race between each other in order for you to, like, see who gets the target first. And that's pretty fucking awesome. Like, that's a cool and unique, like, co-op / PvP that I just wish that, you know, more games experimented with stuff like that. Because it's less about you killing each other and more who's able to get the target first.
And you can get the job done quicker.
Like, that, I think, is awesome. And again, just because of those, you know, it's those small things that really help elevate this game even more than what the 2016 game did. So, at least in my opinion. And I just love it as a result. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
It took a really great game and it improved upon it.
It's just they had to remove that DRM. and they had to not make it episodic and just actually release a DLC as an addition rather than trying to complete the game.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter how good the game, like the gameplay is and like the story, which by the way, it's basically just a continuation of what was going on, what we were talking about earlier, where they learn that there's this organization and they pretty much just like, this is just the second act of this whole story. And it does conclude with 3, but because we didn't play it, there you go. So, but I don't know. It's honestly, this is it's sad because it's like I tried streaming both Hitman 1, like Hitman 2016 and Hitman 2 2018 before, but because I fucked up with my settings, I just wasn't really able to. But I have to say this. Hitman 2 2018 is honestly one of my favorite games of all time. Like, I love the gameplay, and I just love just what you're able to do in the game. And because it adds all the content from the previous game, and it doesn't require this always online connection, and the fact that it has even like extra stuff like the sniper mode, which is really fun at times, and that, you know, cooperative PvP. It's just a blast to play. And all I just hope is that Hitman 3 is awesome. I've heard really good things about it, though it did have the DRM situation again, which is unfortunate, but that's besides the point for this particular like stream. But yeah, no, this game I highly recommend to people for sure.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think you wrapped it up pretty well.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I think I have an announcement to make.
Oh.
So, everyone's probably wondering, well, then, like, yes, you tried streaming this before, but it didn't work before. Like, why are you like ranking Hitman? Well, it's because I've decided that once I get a new desktop within several months from now, I will be replaying through the World of Assassination trilogy on stream. So I know this hasn't really worked out too much before, but once I get that new computer and I, you know, officially get everything set up, I will be playing through all 3 games, including the Hitman 3, once I'm able to get it. And I'm really excited about that.
This was a little like teaser almost, like a little teaser trailer.
Yep, this was a teaser trailer, and you did know about it, so I surprised everyone. I'm a bag of secrets. I know.
A pile of secrets.
So, but yeah, no, just regardless though, I'm really excited to play Hitman 3. I hope it's as amazing as I've, you know, seen some people play through. Locations look really cool. Yeah, you go to the UAE, you go back to Scotland, or is it in England or whatever, and you go to Germany, Argentina, go to a bunch of places in that game again, and it brings back content from the games we just talked about, and I'm excited about that. So I'm just hoping to see if it pans out. But do you have any last thoughts, or?
No, I think we've got it summed up. Hitman, this franchise started really rocky, had a very rocky history. It's very unusual because most franchises either got better or they got worse over the years, and this is one that is very.
It got better, and then it had a bit of a steep, but got really better again.
Then really got a kick and went up. So really interesting in its journey. It's a franchise that I really like. It's gone on such a journey, has evolved so much from a janky, dirty, weird to play PC game from the year 2000.
Horrible stealth game.
Yeah, fake stealth game to a really enjoyable, complex, fun, interesting experience.
And that's, I think, what we should, like, what most gaming franchises should at least try to strive for. If they have rocky beginnings, there's only one way for you to go, and that's up.
Improve. Try to go up.
So,
And say what you want about Absolution, but at least it was them trying to be experimental. It didn't work, but I'd rather see it.
And at least it's still better than the original game. I'm sorry, I am not holding back on that.
I'd rather see a game like try to experiment something and not have it work out than to just continue to play it safe, because at least that shows that people are getting ideas.
But then isn't that like, wouldn't that be like a bad thing for like the new trilogy though? Because they've been playing it safe. Because like I said, Hitman 2 is basically the same game as the first one.
I suppose, but at the same time, it's what you said. If it ain't broke, then don't fix it. It's a weird balance that you got. It's a weird balance that you got.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that like you need to make sure that you have like you can obviously you need to improve your game, but like make it to where it's like if you do have a really good system, just add to it rather than try to change it.
Yeah,
because that's what Absolution did, and it did not work.
Recognize your strengths, hold on to them, make them strong, work on them to be stronger, but at the same time, look at weak points and just figure out where you can go from there and get creative on ways you can change it up without compromising anything. That's the main key to not just making a good game, but a good movie, a good TV show, good music. Find what you're good at, find what the
basically
people like, find
everything I've talked about in this entire series so far.
Yeah.
So
find what's
like that's the whole point of our tier lists, is to point out this sort of stuff. But yeah, no. Oh, sorry, what?
Now. Oh no, I'm just finishing my point. The Hitman franchise is doing that right now. It found its strength. It deviated a little, admittedly, but it has found its strength. It's sticking to that. And if Hitman 2 and from a little of Hitman 3 we have so far, it's doing that. I think you will really love the Argentina level.
I just want to make sure I don't get Diana killed, because I know she appears in that mission. That's all I know. Yep. I don't know why she's in that mission, but I know she is.
I won't spoil it for you. But she's there. She's screaming out.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much it here, because again, we did not rank Go or Sniper Challenge. Go watch other people talk about it. I don't want to talk about them. So, and it was at least nice being able to have you on one of these types of streams.
I'm glad to be a guest here. I hope to be back here again. It's a lot of fun talking about things. I would love to become a mainstay in this funny little cast of characters we have here on.
My god!
In the SVU, in the SCU, the Slice Cinematic Universe.
How dare you? How dare you make me use that? Okay, but in all seriousness, though, Goldie is pretty chill. He's been going on some of these streams more often. Just kind of, letting people know that he does have his own Instagram where he has his own art. So make sure to check that out.
And who knows where that goes? I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I feel like after like 2 to 3 years of being an Instagram artist, I'm finally I feel like I'm finally gaining some level of notoriety. I'm getting I'm catching people's attention. I'm getting comments. I'm getting people asking me for commissions, which I plan to do pretty soon. So if you like art, if you like what you see, I'm gonna shill for you for a little bit. Be on the lookout. if you like my art and if you like it and don't want to pay for it, that's fine. I ain't asking for a handout. I'm not like on the verge of homelessness, but yeah, I'm thinking of starting commissions pretty soon because I'm starting to feel like I'm comfortable asking people for money. So if you like art, if you have your own characters or scenarios that you want me to draw out for the right price, I can make that happen.
Okay, I was about to say, I was afraid that you were about to brag.
No,
I thought I heard a little bit of a brag in there too.
I'm guessing a little bit, but I guess what I'm just saying is like, I guess I'm just expressing like happiness.
It's fine. I'm just messing.
Yeah, that my account is because I've worked really hard, and it's really nice to see some people actually like take notice, even if it's still very small.
Mm.
So,
but yeah, no, seriously though, make sure to check out Goldie's stuff. Like I said, it will be in the chat right next to where the stream is actually showcasing. So feel free to check out their stuff. And yeah, while you guys are at it, if you want to, you can also check out some of my stuff, specifically in the Discord, the SoundCloud, as well as our affiliation link with Humble Bundle. So for those who don't know, Humble Bundle is a online distribution website where basically, it basically provides keys to, certain games on Steam, but that money actually goes directly not only to the developers themselves, but also to different charity organizations from around the world. Specifically, the one that the one in particular I've signed up with is with Charity Water, an organization that pretty much tries to build clean water sources to places that don't have access to clean water. And so if you want to get games while being able to support the developers as well as these
help the world
charity organizations, feel free to join that. Sorry, what?
Just help not just adding, help the world out a little bit.
Yeah.
Clean water, granted.
So, and this also directly helps me as well. And so feel free to check out that link. If you want to support me other ways, you can also hit that subscribe button. If you can't necessarily do that, that's completely fine. I'm just glad you took time to watch this. But if you want incentive to subscribe, not only do you have access to emoticons exclusive to this channel, but also if we can reach 5 subscribers at any given point, you guys are able to choose one of several open world games that I have planned for me to play through. So that's pretty cool. And also make sure to press that follow button down below and share the stream to other people as well, and just continue to be awesome people. But until then, I'll see you guys later. I don't know if I'll stream tomorrow because of just the fact that I'll have to be gone because of dorm policy. It's stupid. But yeah, no, either way, do you have anything else to say before we end off?
Just have a good night, everyone. Be well, stay safe, wherever you're doing, whatever it is you're doing. I hope.
Drink plenty of water.
Yeah, drink plenty of water because it's something that we take for granted, as you've.
Yeah, as I pointed out.
Drink plenty of water, whatever it is, whatever game or movie you're enjoying, enjoy it, have fun,
and if you don't do that, then Agent 47 is going to have a very, very stern talk with you.
I will put out a contract for you. So because I will teach you how to enjoy life.
But yeah, hope to see you guys in the future. Until then, peace out.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah, bye. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.